David Smith here with one more flipped classroom math video lesson. 3 tips before we start. First, remember you can adjust the playback speed to make it faster or slower as you like. Second, you can pause the video at any point to catch up on your notes or jot down some questions. Third, you can turn on the captions so you can read my words on the screen. Today, let's take a look at different forms of linear equations. We're just following in the tracks of our last lesson. So this is part 2 over there. We're going to treat this a little bit like a quiz. Okay, so you want to put your quiz hat on and give these problems a really good try. Okay, so here's the first one. Write the equation of a line in y equals mx plus b form for a with a gradient of -2 and passing through the point -4, 3. And this would be a 3-mark problem on an IB test. So pause the video and really give this one a good shot. If it takes a little while, just stay with it. Try to get all the way to the end. Okay, let's see how you did. So we know that the gradient is -2. So my first step might be something like this. Y equals -2x plus b. I'm just substituting in what I know. Now I know something else. I know that it passes through the point -4, 3. That's the x-coordinate and that's the y-coordinate. This point satisfies this equation. Plugging it in here will enable us to find b. So let's do that. The y-coordinate is 3, so 3 equals -2 times the x-coordinate, which is -4, plus b. Now we can work this and solve for b. 3 equals, -2 times -4 is 8, plus b. Subtract 8 from both sides, and we get -5 equals b. So my equation would be y equals, what's my slope? -2x minus 5. There's my line equation. Okay, second question. Again, pause the video and really work this one all the way through to the end. So this is part B of the same problem. Write the equation of a line in y equals mx plus b form of a line that passes through these 2 points. So give it a shot. Okay, let's see how you did. Now, when you start with 2 points, you need to find the slope. We're going to use our slope equation, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Do my plug-in step. I'm going to call this one y2 minus 5 minus -1, 6 minus -2. And a little word here, just like with the point slope form, these negatives are part of the equation. So if the point is also negative, you have to keep track of that. So this is going to end up being -5 plus 1, which is -4, and this is -6 plus 2, I'm sorry, +6 plus 2, which would give us 8. So this is -1/2. So that's my slope. So now what I'm going to do is go ahead and use my y equals mx plus b form. And I'm going to go ahead and we'll pick this point. Doesn't matter, you can pick both, either one of those points. You'll get the same equation. So this is going to be my y value, -1 equals my slope, -1/2 times my x value, which is -2 plus b. Now we can solve for b. This is -1 equals -1/2 times 2 is 1 plus b. Right? Because I have -1/2 and a -2. Now I'm going to subtract 1 from each side and get -2 equals b. So my equation is y equals m, that's our -1/2, plus b, which is -2. So there's my line equation. Okay, let's take a look at what you need to graph. Now here's an interesting thing, is you just need 2 of these 4 items. Any 2. So if you have both intercepts, that's an easy one. You can just plot the intercepts and draw a line between them. If you have the gradient and any one of these things, you could plot that line. If you have a random point and the gradient, actually, now this is the interesting thing, you can use this one twice. And we just did that line equation. If you have 2 random points, you can find the slope and then find the equation and then graph the line. So this is just a good list for reference. Fair game. You can get any 2 of these and be asked to find the equation and graph that line. Let's do an IB-style word problem that pulls together some of these ideas. Here's our problem. There's a straight road with an equation y equals negative 0.75x, that's negative 3/4 x, plus 11.5, and this road intersects two freeways given by equations x equals 0, y equals 0. The IB's first request here is sketch a graph. So I've got my axes. Let's go ahead and label them. Here's the x-axis and here's the y-axis. Now let's see if we can add a little bit more information on this to help clarify what we've got going on here. The freeways are given by the equations x equals 0, y equals 0. So there's two freeways. Now, on the graph, they are already here. See if you can think and figure that out. Where are those two freeways? Okay, if you remembered that any line x equals something with no y, that's a vertical line. This happens to be a vertical line centered on the x-axis. So this line here is x equals 0. In fact, that's the equation for the y-axis. And the same thing over here, this is the line y equals 0. So the x-axis has a equation that's y equals 0 because we're neither up nor down off the x-axis. That line is y equals 0. Okay, let's finish this graph up. Y equals negative 3/4 x plus 11.5. That 11.5 is our y-intercept, so I'm just going to go ahead and mark it right here. I haven't scaled my axes. Actually, let's do that a little differently. 0, 11.5. Okay, I haven't scaled my axes because basically this sets my scale. I'm good with that. Now my slope is negative 3/4, so it's going to go down. It's not negative 1, which would give me a 45-degree slope. It's a little bit more shallow. So let's just draw that like that. Okay? Now, you can do this on your graphing display calculator simply by entering the equation, and you'd see something like that. Let's take a look at another question that the IB might ask about this situation. Here it is. A shop owner wants to locate two stores, one each where the road meets a freeway. Where do they go? Okay, so first you have to understand what they mean by that question. Two stores located where each meets a freeway and a county road. So that would be here. Remember, this is a freeway and that's a freeway, and this is our road. So they want to locate the shops, one here and one here. All right, we already know this one. This shop is at the point 0, 11.5. Now we just need to find this one. Now that's the x-intercept. That's where the line touches the x-axis, and as we know from our equation here, that's the line where y equals 0. So to find this intercept, we just set y equal to 0 and solve for x. I'm going to use 3/4 because I like that better. So now I'm going to subtract 3/4 x from each side of the equation, and I'm going to wind up with 3/4 x equals 11.5. When I solve for x, I get 15.3 repeating, or 15 1/3. So that means that this point here is the point 15.3 repeating, comma, 0. And that's the other location. So we've got 2. And those are our two locations. Last question, part C. Find the distance between the stores. Now we've done this before, about 3 or 4 lessons back. So pause the video, use what you have here to find the distance between the two stores. Okay, so remember the stores are located here and here. We have coordinate points for both the stores, so this is a straightforward plug in with the distance formula and then solve. So distance is going to equal the square root. I'm going to call this one y2 of 0 minus y1, 11.5 squared, plus x2, 15.3 repeating minus 0 squared. Just like that, okay? Now pull out your calculator and do that calc. When I do the calc, I get 19.16666 repeating, so to 3 sig figs, 19.2. Okay, here's another similar kind of a IB request. Draw the graph for this. Now, notice that this is in standard/general form. It's not easy to graph from that. You don't get any intercepts there. You don't get any slope there. It's this form that just has the variables on one side, a number on the other side, things like that. So, what do? Well, One way we can do this is solve for the intercept. So I'm going to try that. So basically, when it crosses the y-axis, x is 0. So for the y-intercept, we set x equal to 0. 5 times 0 plus 3y equals 10. This gives us 3y equals 10, which gives us y equals 10 over 3. So the y-intercept is 0, 10 over 3. So that's pretty easy solve. Let's try for the x-intercept. That's when y is 0. So 5x plus 3 times 0 equals 10. We get 5x equals 10, and that gives us x equals 2. So the x-intercept is 2, 0. So now I have my two intercepts. It's pretty easy to make a sketch. I'm going to squeeze that in right here. My y-intercept is the point 0, 10 thirds. So I can just do this. And then the x-intercept is the point 2, 0. So let's call that right there. Label my axes. I have my 2 points. There's my line. As simple as that. And you can do it just like this if you're doing it by hand. If you do it on your GDC, on your graphing display calculator, it will show you the graph, and then you can use the tools there to find the exact points of the intercepts. Finally, I'm not going to make you do this, but you could also take this equation and solve it for y, which would put it in slope-intercept form, and then you could graph it from there. And for some of you, you might enjoy that better. In fact, let's do that as a practice. Go ahead and find the equation of that line in slope-intercept or gradient-intercept form. Go ahead and pause the video and do that. Okay, let's see how you did. The idea is to get y alone on one side. So I'm going to subtract 5x from both sides. I'm going to get 3y equals 5x plus 10. Now I'm not solved for y, I've got to get y alone. I've got a 3y, so I'm going to divide both sides by 3, and I get y equals 5 thirds x plus 10 thirds. So check it out. The y-intercept is the same one we found over here, right? 0, 10 thirds, so that's good. And then our slope is 5 thirds. Now, what's wrong with that? I can see very clearly that my slope in that equation is wrong. So see if you can figure that out. Stare at the math there and figure out what I did wrong. Okay, guess what? I subtracted 5x from both sides and the brain didn't quite work right. I didn't make it negative because it's getting subtracted. So that's a negative and that's a negative. So that makes that work. And here's the kind of troubleshooting you need to learn how to do. I did my equation. I looked at my line. My line has a negative slope. My equation doesn't have a negative slope. So there's a problem. So you want to build those skills as much as you can. Now that you've watched the video, take a moment to jot down any additional notes, some questions, or a quick summary of the lesson. You can also re-watch the portions of the video that were a little bit challenging for you. If you enjoyed the video, please click like, and if you'd like to help me grow my YouTube channel, please click subscribe.